This is a Jet 24, Fox 66, your Erie.com special report.
Good afternoon. We interrupt our regular programming today to bring you a special report. The weekly briefing on the spread of COVID-19 across Erie County. This county briefing coming as the numbers continue to go up in Pennsylvania. We want to go live now to County Executive Kathy Dahlkemper.
In front of the Erie County Department of Health on this lovely Erie County day. Before I get started with the COVID-19 update, I want to remind everyone about the 2020 census. The response numbers for this week are 70% of households in Erie County and 61% in the city have responded thus far. That's fairly good, but we know we have a lot more households to reach here in Erie County. Households who have not responded to the 2020 census can expect to see an additional reminder postcard in their mail this week. To avoid having a census taker come to your door, please complete the census by calling 844-330-2020 or go online at my2020census.gov today. Census workers also will be available at Perry Square on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week from 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., as well as the Edinburgh's Movie Under the Stars event on Thursday. These events, of course, are weather permitting. And now, back to our update of COVID-19. We have 8 new cases of COVID-19 to report in Erie County as of 12:01 a.m., which brings us to a cumulative total of 813 cases since March. We currently have 670 recovered cases, 128 active cases, 15,581 negatives, and total deaths of 15. Of the cumulative cases in Erie County, 59% are female, with 41% male. The breakdown by age is 3% are ages 0 to 4, 2% are ages 2 to 9, 6% are ages 10 through 18, 16% 19 through 24, 40% are ages 25 to 49, 19% ages 50 to 64, and 13% are 65 or older. And please note that sometimes our percentages don't reach 100 due to rounding. Regarding race and ethnicity, our cumulative cases are 56% white residents, 29% African American or black residents, 6% Asian, 3% other, and 7% are unknown. Regarding Hispanic origin, 9% are Hispanic of any race, with 82% non-Hispanic and 9% unknown. We must continue to wear our masks and physically distance ourselves, practicing good hygiene, and please stay away from anyone you know who is ill. I know this is a frustrating and confusing time for all of us, and it can be exhausting trying to understand and follow what seems like the ever-changing guidelines. But like it or not, COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon. Your commitment to following the guidelines that the scientists and the epidemiologists put forth is key to making a difference in fighting the spread here in Erie County. I'm asking all of you to continue to do your part. Think about your loved ones. Think about your grandparents, your mom and dad, that beloved aunt or uncle. Let's do what we can to keep them safe while enjoying simple activities such as a garage sale, getting an ice cream cone, walking through parks, and so many others. They are depending on us to do the right thing, to wear a mask, to stay socially distanced, and to stay home as much as possible. Next, I would like to address the CARES Act funding. Erie County Council did a first reading of the ordinance last night, and they will go into it deeper as they move to a second reading, which I expect to happen next week. Once that second reading happens and the vote occurs, we will soon announce how to apply for the various types of funding that are available. We're very eager to get this money distributed into Erie County, to our small businesses, to our nonprofits, the tourism industry, local municipalities. As quickly as possible, we want to get that money out. And now I want to invite David George, the Supervisor of Environmental Health Services here at Erie County, to say a few words about the new mitigation efforts that were put forth by the state. David?
Thank you, County Executive. Today, I want to go over some of the frequently asked questions released by the state with regard to the travel recommendations and the new targeted mitigation orders concerning bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and other events and gatherings. Any indoor gathering, event, sporting game, or practice, 25 people or less can attend. This includes private catering events, graduation parties, and weddings. Outdoor events and games are still limited to 250 people. At all times, spectators and players should wear masks and keep socially distanced. Gyms and fitness facilities are encouraged to prioritize outdoor physical fitness activities. Indoor sport tournaments can still be held as long as the number of individuals does not exceed 25 people in the gym. If a facility is large enough and can utilize sufficient division between spaces, such as using movable walls or floor-to-ceiling dividers, each divided area can hold up to 25 individuals. Common spaces like lobby areas and bathrooms must be cleaned frequently, and visitors should not congregate. The individuals in the 25-person limit also include staff and employees of the facility, not just the patrons and players. With regard to sports, I want to stress how important it is that everyone wear a mask. We are beginning to see some COVID-positive cases from student athletes throughout the county. It is the responsibility of the league or team to develop a plan of action in the event that an athlete, coach, or official falls ill. This plan also needs to be made available to the public. If any person was in close contact with that athlete, or if there is any doubt that the person was in close contact, they have to quarantine for 14 days. The new mitigation order states that alcohol can only be served for on-premise consumption when in the same transaction as a meal, while takeout sales of alcohol for off-site consumption are permitted. A meal is defined as food prepared on the premises sufficient to constitute breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It does not mean a snack such as pretzel, popcorn, chips, or similar food. Breweries, distilleries, and wineries may only offer beverage services if accompanied by a meal. Wineries and breweries that do not offer food service but host food trucks must take steps to ensure that customers have purchased a meal when an alcohol beverage is purchased. An example would be a receipt for proof of the food purchase. 3 new states have been added to the travel quarantine list, bringing the total to 18 states. The 3 new states are Iowa, Kansas, and Oklahoma. The state recommends that businesses implement policies and procedures with regards to the travel quarantine. People should quarantine even if they are asymptomatic upon return from these states. Lastly, I want to touch on some of the complaints we have received. Since March 16th, the department has received roughly 2,606 complaints, with many of these complaints with regard to the masking policy. The health department has a group of dedicated call center staff following up on these complaints to inform and educate businesses on the mask order. We are also working with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Enforcement with regard to the new mitigation efforts recently put in place for establishments that have liquor licenses. Recently, large retail stores such as Walmart, Target, CVS, Best Buy, Home Depot, and Lowe's have implemented nationwide masking policies. Many of these stores are now providing masks for shoppers who may have forgotten them. Since these businesses have implemented these policies, we have seen a drastic reduction in complaints from these larger stores. With these larger corporations making the masking mandate a nationwide policy, I am sure others will follow suit. There's already talks of some airline companies and hotel chains making this a nationwide policy as well. With regard to masking effectiveness, a recent study by Brigham Young University researchers included a review of over 115 scientific studies on COVID-19. These studies concluded There is now convincing evidence from multiple controlled experiments and field observations that wearing masks reduce the transmission of COVID-19 for healthcare workers and the public. Cloth masks can stop 90% or more of the dispersal of droplets carrying the virus. That being said, these large retailers are setting a good example, and I hope that all businesses focus on their strategies and implement the masking policy to ensure safety of their employees, patrons, and the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And now we're going to open it up to the press today for questions. And we actually only have two press entities with us today. So we'll start today with Erie News Now, Lisa Adams.
I want to ask both of you, I guess, about the school situation. The closer the start date gets, the more concerned, as we saw Erie school board directors are, and today Edinburgh University deciding to go online for the fall semester. So what is the county offering these larger entities that are going to be bringing a lot more than 25 people together in a space? And I know they'll be separated in rooms. What are you offering to help them with their plans beforehand, or to even make decisions whether they should be in person or not?
So the question being, what is the county doing to work with all of our schools, from our youngest children to our college-age students? And here at the health department, there's been a group working directly with the school entities. I'm going to have David George speak to that a little bit more because he's been directly involved.
So some of our emergency management staff at the county have been reviewing these plans, and also at the health department, and we've been collaborating, reviewing the plans, working with the school superintendents, and we're working on developing a team when the schools are ready to go out to each district, and if they have any questions or need us to look at anything further, to help them. They might have the plan that is good on paper, but how are they going to implement it? We'll go out there to see the best way that we can help them implement their plans, and also if there's something that maybe they need some help on, help them develop a risk mitigation strategy to determine the best course of action to take. So we're actually going to go out to some of the schools here once we receive their plans shortly to help with all the school districts.
So we're just a few weeks away from the start of school. So are you in a timely fashion to help them? And when you look at these travel orders for places where people should quarantine, I mean, how does that impact colleges and universities that are bringing many guests into our county?
Yeah, we've received some questions about colleges and students traveling from outside of the state, from those hot states, the 18 states where they need to quarantine. We're suggesting that they quarantine for 14 days, maybe have the university develop a location where those students can safely quarantine, and other students will be able to go to class. Edinburgh going entirely virtual. They made that decision on their own based off of their own risk mitigation strategies. So I'm not sure if others will follow suit, but it's definitely a difficult challenge to face.
Are you giving broad advice to the schools, or is it going to be school by school as you give them some mitigation wisdom here? Because clearly they're uncertain even though they have plans in place.
It's broad advice, and that's why we're going out on inspections to each school district to give them more specific advice to each individual district. We're not going to be able to go to each individual school, but maybe a high school and an elementary school, spend a day with a school district just going over the way that they can best implement these practices.
Thank you, David. Star?
I guess in regards
From
to
Jet TV, I'll say. Star Buddy, Jet TV.
I guess in regards back to the schooling, what about transportation efforts? What are you guys doing in regards to that with just being a short few time away from school starting, and a lot of parents, allow their students to use the bus system? What kind of efforts are you guys looking into for that?
We've been working with the school districts. Recently some guidance came out from the state with regard to busing, suggesting that they keep track of who goes on the bus, fill the bus from the back to the front, keep the first row of each bus empty to keep the bus driver safe, and have students wear masks. In the warmer weather, if the bus drivers or students can roll down the windows to help the airflow, that should help reduce the transmission rate. And we're also trying to encourage one person per seat, but we know that that's not possible, and some schools need to do that risk mitigation study just to see how they can best implement the practices for the students so they can safely go to school. And then it's also recommended that before they even get on the bus, they do a screening to make sure that anyone who goes on the bus doesn't have any symptoms of COVID-19.
I know areas and school districts like Erie School District is talking about how to do multiple rounds of busing in the morning at different times. How do you guys see implementing time into school and cleaning efforts in between to make sure everyone's there on time? That's
something the school districts have to figure out. It's going to be a challenge. It does require that after each round the buses do a thorough cleaning. Some of the schools are accomplishing that through some virtual training, some people having training, going to school in the morning and having virtual training in the afternoon. So they're developing a plan to best do that.
So one thing I will say about the schools, everyone is trying to get the students back in. They may or may not be able to, but it really, again, is a call to our community, because the more we do the right thing out in the community, the more we can control the spread of COVID-19, and the safer not only our students, but all the faculty and the administration and employees of the school district will be. Many who may already have concerns with going back because of their own personal health. So we all need to do our part if we want our collective children to get back to school here in Erie County. Back to Lisa.
You mentioned a few student athletes have tested positive, so this is just with bringing smaller groups of students together. So does that give you pause just seeing that happening? And then what about contact tracing in public or private school? I believe the colleges and university have to have their own contact tracing plan, but will the county be responsible for contact tracing from these athletes to any other students who come back to school?
So when it comes to contact tracing, the responsibility of the Erie County the Department of Public Health is still to do the contact tracing for all of our residents, and that would include our students going back to school. And we've already done that with these student athletes that have already been, it's already been reported on. We've had some student athletes here in Erie County. Sports has always been something that I think concerns all of us. You know, you think about this mask and you think about the fact that when you are actually running hard, it's very difficult to wear it. And so many of our athletes are not wearing masks while they're actually in the middle of that sport. I've seen, unfortunately, many coaches not wearing a mask, many parents at events not wearing masks, and everyone else should definitely be wearing their masks. But when you have those sports and you have close contact, you know, I think about football, you're right there next to each other, face to face on the line as you are doing the hike and getting the ball off. So these are huge concerns, and we've already seen that some college level sports are not happening at all. And I can see that they may get to that point with PIAA. But again, right now they're trying to do the best they can. We need everyone to, again, wear their masks, stay socially distanced as much as they can, help our students be able to continue to do the things that they love.
Are there still contact tracers here from the state? I know when we were peaking and having our highest caseloads, that was very helpful. Are those additional people still in our county helping or helping us remotely?
The state does not have contact tracers here. We hired 18 on who are really helping to relieve the staff of the burden that we had in those early times when we didn't have as much staff and we had rising numbers. So the state contact tracers are doing the work in all of those other counties that do not have health departments currently. Star?
In regards to the CARES Act funding, I know County Council, as of yesterday evening, was doing some more extensive research in regards to where the funding will go to. As a County Councilor and the County Executive in DC, where do you see this funding being implemented to in these areas of the county?
So we have a task force that's been meeting now for quite a few weeks to look at this money and help determine how we can divide it up according to the buckets that we're allowed to divide it up by. This is very much guided by the state and the federal legislation. So there's kind of like 7 buckets. We can do it to reimburse the county or to pay expenses going forward from March through the end of the year. We can use the money to help our municipalities. We cannot give them money for lost revenue, but we can give them funds for whatever they had to do in terms of personal protection equipment, whether that be sneeze guards, hand sanitizer, face masks, those type of things, whatever they had to do to create social distancing within their township building, for example. We can give the money to our nonprofits, and we have about $5 million that we're trying to set aside for our nonprofits. There will be a process run through the county to have them apply, and then that will be a grant to those nonprofits. We can also give money to small businesses through Bridgeway Capital and money that came directly from the state to them. They are working with the businesses that are 25 employees or less, and so our funding will mostly go to businesses that are that 26 to 100 level, because this money is just for small businesses. It will be priority to those businesses that haven't received any other funding through what they call the PPP, and there's one other program, but that doesn't mean they're not eligible, but the priority has to go to those businesses who didn't get any of that funding. The money can go to broadband, but it's very hard to do a broadband project between now and December 30th. So we're looking at making more free Wi-Fi sites all over the county and using some funding to do that, to help people access the internet when they aren't able to at home. And so behavioral health and mental health, we have some money going out for that. So that we have a budget set out, and County Council again is doing a little bit deeper dive into that, and we're looking also at two other entities within Erie County, one being the Erie Events, the Convention Center Authority, and one being Visit Erie, who obviously very much helps to drive the business for our tourism. And actually I forgot to mention tourism. Tourism is definitely included in that. Fairs and festivals can apply for this money because most of them did not happen this year, and so they can actually apply for some of the loss that they received, or that they did not get from this.
And when will patrons be able to apply for this? How long do we think that County Council is going to continue researching this?
My understanding is County Council is going to try to have their second reading and then vote on this next week. We are getting these programs set up in terms of the applications, and we want to get this money out as soon as possible. So hopefully the County Council will not delay any more than next week, because every week we delay is another week that we cannot help our community here. Lisa.
Along that line, I mean, is there any chance that the county will say the biggest need of all of these applicants is X, and put a big chunk of money to X rather than a little bit of money to a lot of things? I mean, are there assets or needs? You talk about tourism, you know, your events, you can't do anything right now, those kinds of things. I mean, is there any chance that the county will make what's the most important need to keep something surviving, and, you know, one big pot to fill as opposed to a little bit of money to a lot of organizations?
Well, what we did, if we put forward a budget to County Council that takes the $24.3 million and does divide it up sort of into these buckets. And so like $4 million for small business and tourist businesses, $5 million for nonprofits. We put money aside, a couple million, and I don't have the exact budget in front of me, for Erie Events, which is the Convention Center Authority and runs those, you know, the arena, the Warner, and the Convention Center with absolutely no, and the baseball field with nothing going on there. So we know that that's a huge need. So we want that to be here when this is all over. So we are trying to help out every entity we can. We know that some entities have already gotten some funding federally, and there may be more coming. In fact, I've heard that they are working on some legislation that would allow Convention Center Authority to actually apply for the PPP, which they were not allowed to prior. So they're looking at maybe government authorities being able to do that in the next round of funding that comes out of the federal government. Ever changing, but one thing is for sure is that we are being very careful to follow all the guidelines on how this money goes out, because if there's any money spent and it's not spent according to the guidelines of the federal government and the state, we'll have to return this money. The county government will have to return this money to the federal government, and we don't want to be in that situation.
Just one other quick question. Last weekend we had kind of a look at how the state's new rules were impacting bars and restaurants who've been kind of on a seesaw of what they can and can't do. And it was pretty chilling to hear the owner of Cloud9 say, you know, if I can't have more people sitting inside my restaurant, I don't know if I'll make it through the winter. I don't know if I'll survive. I mean, how concerned are you that the changing rules of the state, when our cases are pretty low here right now, are going to kill a lot of small businesses, especially in the food and beverage industry?
I think the food and beverage industry is one of the industries that's going to be hit the most, and we're going to see the most closures. And unfortunately, it is the nature of this virus. I'm not going to blame the state. I'm going to blame the virus. I myself will not go inside of a restaurant to eat. I will not expose myself to that much potential virus load. I stay outside. You can eat. I actually haven't really even gone out and eat on a patio. I've taken some takeout orders, but each person has to decide their comfort level. And but in the end, the governor and the federal government and everyone working on this is trying to control this virus and keep people alive. And we're going to have to help as much as we can to keep our businesses going. And I'm very hopeful that some of this money we have, which is a grant, not a loan, can help keep some of those businesses going.
So do you have a personal reflection about schools then? You're saying you don't want to be inside of a closed space of a restaurant, so how do you feel about sending hundreds of thousands of children back into classrooms in our county?
You know, this is a question that my daughter-in-law has asked me numerous times, and it's a very, very difficult question. It's a very difficult answer about schools. And again, each school's trying to do it in their own unique way, depending on their situation. You know, there is a concern with our children's education. So again, with all of this virus, we've always had to weigh the detriment to you know, the benefit. And I think that's what each parent and unfortunately each school district is going to have to decide. And I can't really make those decisions personally. And that's what I have actually told my own family, is you have to do what you feel comfortable with for your own children. Star?
I guess any advice for parents and those guardians who are looking to send their children back to school to prepare their students for what's to come and what this is going to be like, especially those younger students heading back, going on the bus, having to wear a mask every day, no recess, maybe sitting alone at lunch.
To prepare your children, get them to wear their mask, get them to keep their mask on, get them to learn how to wear it now. I think a lot of children have been home and they haven't been outside that much, and parents aren't, thankfully, taking their children to stores and things like that, so they aren't wearing masks. So we ought to teach our children that this is okay, and you can wear it, and you can still do school, and you can still, you know, participate in your classroom. I've heard of some schools putting up actual sneeze guards around the desks, and then the kids will be able to take their masks off when they are sitting at their desk. So that may be helpful for a lot of students. Other schools trying to shorten their day and allow the students to not be in school so long. So anyway, there's a lot of different things I think you need to do to prepare your student for this, but one is to get them to wear their masks. Lisa, do you have any last questions?
I don't think so, except just maybe visitors to the county. I mean, in the tourism season here, it's easy to see a lot of out-of-state flights around here, people coming and recreating here. You know, I know we were anxious about 4th of July and what that might mean. So far, the numbers are not spiking back up here in spite of the fact that tourism is going on. Are you feeling a sense of relief, or are you still concerned?
I think that, again, our businesses are what's making the difference here. Our businesses enforcing the mask rule, enforcing the social distancing, following the guidelines. We've had such good cooperation from our businesses from the beginning. We do have a lot of visitors here. I've met some of them as I've been out on walks and around town. And you know, everybody's feeling a little antsy and they want to get out a little bit, and so they find Erie a fairly safe place to come. But my concern is, again, you know, where are they at? What are they doing? And our people that are coming back from vacation quarantining. That's a big issue. I've actually know personally a couple families who've gone somewhere, one of the states that are high in numbers in terms of their caseload, and they've come back here and there have been some COVID-19 positive cases from that. So it's important that if you go to one of those states, you know when you come back you need to quarantine. You need to do your 14 days. Not going to work, not out at a restaurant, not at a grocery store. You need to stay home, get someone else to bring in whatever you need. Star, do you have any last questions?
I guess my final question is in regards to students that are coming in from different states like California to go study at these universities here in Pennsylvania close to Erie. What's your advice for the colleges or even the students that are coming in here from hotspots to study?
If a student's coming here, from any hotspot, they need to quarantine for 14 days. The school needs to find a way to make a dorm where they can all quarantine, something where they can be at and monitor those students. So I think the schools are looking at that and trying to figure out how they do that. And as we know, Edinburgh now has made the decision to basically stay virtual this semester. This virus is deadly. This virus, even if it isn't deadly, can have devastating effects to people's health. And it doesn't mean it's just 80-year-olds. This is all ages are having this happen to them. And we don't know who those people are that are going to have that devastating effect. And what we need is we need people to try to help mitigate it so that those who will have the worst of effects won't have them. All right, well, thank you all. I'm going to just list a couple of our star players, some businesses that we know are doing things really well to keep our community safe. Lucky Nails on Buffalo Road in Harbor Creek. They're requiring masks during the entire visit. Customers have to wash their hands upon arrival. Workstations are spaced out, and they all have plexiglass around them. And employees don't touch credit cards. People just swipe for their payments. The Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network Little Italy Farmers Market is also doing a great job. One entrance, one exit with a path for customers to follow to avoid the congregating. The vendors have a yellow circle spray painted around their site, and only 2 customers can be in that yellow circle at one time. People are waiting patiently outside the circle, socially distancing. Customers don't touch the produce like in a traditional market, but they can ask the vendor, and then the vendor will bag it for them. And the first hour of the market is reserved for the elderly and those who are compromised with their immune system. And of course, masks are required. And then finally, Canfield Radiator and Auto Service on East 18th Street. Another business doing a great job. 2 tables set up in front of their counter so customers cannot get within 6 feet of the counter. All employees wearing masks. And on one of the tables is a hand sanitizer and a box of masks in case someone doesn't bring their own, with a sign saying, "Help yourself if you need one." So we will continue to monitor our businesses. We'll continue to work with them. We'll continue to work with our schools to try to make it as safe as possible for our students to go back to school in the fall if that's what a parent and a school decides is best. And in the meantime, I ask all you to help us. Help us keep our businesses open. Help us keep our students and the faculty and administration safe, and our students potentially back to school by staying as close as home as you can, by always wearing your mask when you're outside of your home, by washing your hands frequently, and please stay calm throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
You've been watching today's update on COVID-19 from Erie County Executive Kathy Dahlkemper. Now, in case you just joined us, a bit of a recap now. We want to let you know that there are 8 new cases reported by the county. The total is now 813. The total of active cases is 128 right now. 15,581 people have tested negative so far in Erie County since they started keeping track, and there are still 15 reported deaths. The county executive talked a little bit this afternoon about the CARES Act funding that the county is now trying to figure out who will get what. County Council had a first reading last night. They're expected to have a second reading, according to the county executive, next week, and at that point take a vote. It's after that that Kathy Dahlkemper said they expect to put out the protocol for basically applying for part of this $24.3 million that came from the CARES Act to Erie County. They also spent a lot of today's briefing talking about schools and back to schools, and it's a huge question right now. Each individual district grappling with how they're going to handle their particular student body. The colleges are now trying to deal with this. We saw Edinburgh make a decision or announce a decision today that a lot of their classes, the vast majority, would be going online. So with that having been said, I want to take the opportunity to remind you that we will be having a special report tomorrow at 5:30 instead of the 5:30 news. From 5:30 to 6, we'll dedicate that entire half hour to one topic, and that is back to school. Are we ready? We'll be talking to school administrators. We'll talk to teachers. We're going to talk to see what parents and students are worried about. So please, I hope you join us tomorrow at 5:30 during the 5:30 news. All right, let's take a look at some of the numbers now. Confirmed cases of coronavirus near us. In Erie County, as I said, the health department is now reporting 8 new cases. That brings the cumulative number of cases to 813. Across the region, Crawford County reports 114 cases so far. Warren County reporting 14 cases. Both of those numbers are according to the Pennsylvania Department of Health website. Chautauqua County, New York is reporting 210 cases. Ashtabula County, Ohio at 489. Let's look across the Commonwealth now. 631 additional positive cases. The total is now well over 103,000. There were 25 new deaths reported in Pennsylvania. That number now 7,063. The best advice, as always, we've been saying it since the beginning, we'll continue to say it. Stay home, stay calm, wash your hands often, continue to social distance at least 6 feet apart, and of course, wear a mask. We'll have a complete wrap-up tonight on Jet 24 beginning at 5 o'clock. I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon. We'll see you at 5. I'm Sean Lafferty. Good afternoon.
This has been a Jet 24 Fox 66 special report. For ongoing developments, log on to yourerie.com. We now return you to your regularly scheduled program.